And it is for that very reason that I believe it should go to Todd McClay, and I will take the call from him. Todd McClay.
I move that the question be now put.
Kelvin Davis.
The Chair. Mr. Chair, if it helped, being a rugby man, perhaps if you just blew the whistle and went upstairs for an instant replay, we'd be able to see the order of how things happen. But it does give me great pleasure to stand after my colleague Stuart Nash in such a passionate, eloquent and reasonable, rational series of speeches he gave there on Clause 6A, and you can be assured of the same sort of rationality from me as well, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I want to follow on from what my colleague David Shearer has said about this. It is an ideological argument. If something isn't broke, I wonder why we're spending time here trying to fix it. Because we know that the law already says that there can be a referendum held. A referendum held if 10% of the student body agree to it. So why on earth do we need to...
A point of order, Joe Goodhue.
Chair, I believe that this particular member is straying well outside of Clause 6A.
I'll hear the member.
Mr. Chairman, Clause 6A relates to PTEs. The rules regarding 10% applies to them as it does to others, and it's a question of whether the rules which currently apply to them should continue to apply to them or not. That is the essence, that is the absolute essence of what has been debated here, whether they're in for that set of rules or not.
No, look, I'm going to rule that the member is still inside the boundary. I wasn't paying particular attention in that I am processing quite a pile of amendments at the moment, but I just ask him to bear in mind that he should be speaking to Clause 6A. That's not accusing him of not, but I'm just saying please contain himself in the future.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Chair, because I was just getting to the private training establishment part of things, and this does apply, of course, as you know, to the private training establishments as well. And I forgive you for not paying attention to this, the eloquence of the speech, Mr. Chair, but the reality is if the law already says that there can be a 10%, a referendum of, if you can get the 10% of the student body and hold the referendum, why is it that we need to go through this now? Because by holding a referendum of students at private training establishments, they can make the decision as to whether or not they want to be part of a student association. And we know that, just shifting on to what happened at Waikato University as an example, when the student association was disestablished, things fell apart. Now, it's fine to say, because I was listening to the debates earlier on, and Tauhenaria was saying it was all about choice. Well, tell that to the student at a PTE who needs a student association at a particular time in their life when there's a particular crisis, because we know that the student associations provide services of that sort for when students are in difficulties. So tell the student who turns up looking for help from a student association, sorry, it's been disestablished, it's fallen over because of this bill that's been pushed through Parliament now. Tell them in their moment of need that it's just too bad that we've decided to override what the law already is and to change things. So, Mr. Chair, to me, why change it? Why change it when it's not broke? And as Stuart Nash said, private PTEs, they allow students to train in their area where they come from, so they can actually be able to train not far from home, instead of having, such as people like myself in the north, when we had to go to teachers' college, the only option was to journey 3 hours south to go to the nearest teachers' college. Now it's great that students can actually train in the area around them. And so why should this apply to PTEs? Why should this bill apply at all when there's actually not a problem? I mean, who has actually asked for this aside from the ACT Party? The students don't want it. If they wanted it, they would gather up their 10% of their student body and they would ask for it. So instead, here we are, we're overriding what the student body want. So why do it? What is the point in doing this and undermining the services that are provided to help students, to help them get through their training? And we know that there's a lot of difficulties. We know that there are students, they're leaving home often for the first time. They get introduced to all the vices that are out there, and they need help often. They get in trouble with the law. I remember friends getting in trouble with the police. They needed help and advice from people and peers that they trusted, and the student body at Auckland Teachers College when I was there provided that, as well as all the social side of things. But I don't want people to think that it's only the student associations are only there just for social activities, because there's a lot more than that. There's a lot more. It's their physical, it's their mental health and well-being that is also being considered here. But of course this bill threatens to take that away, and there's no need to it, because like I said, 10% of the student body just need to come together, Mr. Chair, for a few...
Are you taking another call?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Calvin Davis.
Just to finish off quickly, Mr. Chair, all the student body at a private trading establishment needs is to gather 10% of their students together who don't want it. Now, if there's not 10% of the students who don't want it, what are we doing here? What are we doing debating this bill now? There is absolutely no point. They can't even gather 10% of the student body to actually oppose this. Now, the other thing is also there is the conscientious objection. If students actually really don't want to be part of a student body at a private training establishment, they can actually opt out of it. There is the conscientious objection side of this. So, as I say, Mr. Chair, try telling the student who is having social, emotional, any sort of difficulties at a private training establishment that, we don't provide any services, we don't have any choice, because the likes of tauhina there, the likes of whānau, there we go. Often away from whānau, and often many whānau are dysfunctional in themselves. So what happens to the student who is dysfunctional in themselves? And Mr. Nash, to my right here, does have a point. The student body does become the whānau for the student who's having difficulties. So, Mr. Chair, this is a pointless exercise carrying on arguing this bill when all we need is 10% of the student body who don't want a student association to come together and have the vote, have the referendum. But of course, Simon Bridges over there, who's come in and made an utterly pointless rebuttal, has suddenly joined the fray. He's woken up. He's had his nanny nap this afternoon. He's come in here and he's decided he's got to jump up and announce his presence. Simon Bridges couldn't rustle up 10% of a student body at a private training establishment to actually object to the student associations. So with that, I look forward to hearing what Simon Bridges has got to say, and I'm sure that he's got a lot of eloquence, there's also a lot of passion to also explain his thoughts. And I just like to acknowledge also the contribution of my whanaunga tauhina there, who, as ever, has got a highly productive contribution to make to the debate. Kia ora.
Joe Goodhue.
I move that the